Thank you very much.
Peppermint Branca is now the official drink of the Lime Working Group.
Or maybe with lime. Is it time to start? I think we're ready. Yes. Okay.
So we're 1 minute late.
Oops, not that one. Not that one. Okay. Well, since you made the slides, you can drive and I'll kibitz. Thank you very much, Ron. So welcome to our Lime meeting. This is Lime for the next hour. We only have 1 hour, and we have a little bit of a packed set of presentations, so we want to get right on it. The Node well, which you've seen many times, but still contributions to the IETF are not only drafts and emails, but anything that we say on the microphone in the context of a meeting is an IETF contribution, which is governed by the IPR laws on the RFCs that are cited there. We do have Scribe and JavaScribe, blue sheets. Nothing on it. We do not have. We can use a white. Oh, wow. Thank you, John. So thank you, John. Blue sheets passing along, and we're ready to get started. Absolutely. So this is really briefly our agenda. And there's something that truncates on the left. So we start with the administrativia. On our agenda, we have, we're going to talk first about the Young model. Deepak is going to be presenting applicability statement. Let's, we have a good plan on how to approach that slot, PM, and next steps. And before that, we want a reminder, and this is something that we want to be very explicit about in what's our goals, what are we doing here, what's our scope. We want to review the charter and in particular the deliverables that we have. If we all remember, when we chartered this working group, Lime, we have 3 key deliverables, 3 main outcomes that we're driving towards. A young data model, which is going to be the first presentation by Deepak. An architecture, and that is in red, purposefully because we still don't have a lot of clarity in the working group on what that's going to entail, and we're going to cover that on the next steps. An applicability document, which we're going to talk about today as well. Ron, I don't know if you want to add anything to what we're doing here, or Benoit. Thank you. And a reminder also on our milestones, purposefully on red, the 2 milestones that we are that we need to deliver first: the Young model and the architecture, followed by the applicability. We're going to talk. Deepak is going to walk us through the model itself, the Young model. We're going to have a discussion on the applicability, and on the next steps, we're going to cover what we do with the architecture. So with that, thank you very much. And we have our first speaker.
Yeah, this is Qinwu from Huawei. Regarding the agenda, Tom is not here, so we want to ask my colleague Yan Zhang to come. Hello? No, it's no power.
Very, very low. Hello? Hello? All right.
And you're requesting to scan on
Not here. I'm not presenting this job. Actually, regarding the gender, Tom Taylor is not here, so I ask my colleague to cover up the applicability document presentation. Yeah.
That definitely works. Thank you. Yeah. So Deepak, I think you're presenting on the young model.
Oh, why don't you take that microphone with you? Certainly works in sharing.
Yeah. Every time you want a slide advance, you can just say click.
Okay. Please stand in the pink box. That makes it easier for the people to drill through.
So, yeah, hello everybody. I think so. I'm gonna cover the Lime-based Yang model, and I and Chin are two editor, but there has been contribution from a lot of people to get this model at this stage. So, can we go to next slide? Okay. So we had a design team before Dallas, and the design team work was done after that, and this is a status update after the discussion. So mostly, what has changed in the model from Dallas? So there was commonality between IPOM, MPLS-OM 1731, MPLS and TRIL-OM, and this was discussed. So mostly the thing is IPOM as a generic one is not completely common with all other technology. So we figure out the common functions. Those are where connectivity check, connectivity verification for performance, loss and deliver measurements were agreed. Again, another thing was agreed upon was that on a management side, you can even envision IP as has a test point. It is within a domain, and the Yang extension can be done by technology type extensions to the model. So so one question that kept on coming, in case of IP, there's no configuration of map, whereas in an L2 model, there's an explicit configuration of map. So this is what is clarified, that this is more of a abstract concept where a map is believed to be there implicitly for management station to actually understand that this is the test point, or this is a sink, or this is a source of a test point. This we are documenting the Lime design team finding, and also applicability document was to be done. So I think that would be covered by Tom's slide. Okay. So few comments we got from the mailing list. We have documented almost everything here. So comments that we got were that we had to put two editors, move others to the contribution section. There were few open issues were there for interface referencing. We'll cover in detail in next slide. There is something non-key leaf instance referencing. We need, this is a ask from us only, how we can get it from Yang Doctor. It's more of a language thing. We would want help from the Yang Doctor. And there were, language issues in the draft. What does it mean, Yang model occur at management layer? That was raised by Benoit. And there is some Yang tool validation error is there, especially it is going 73 by. So we got comments from author of draft LAM, which covered L2 to L0 to L2 OM, and UG compiled all the comment and sent us on the mailing list. We accepted those things, clarified on that. We'll cover them as we go along in the slide, and we have to do an update after the meeting. Means if once all the comments are there, there's a special thanks to all the members means who had gone through it, and especially the author of means L0 to L2, and Tom, Greg, everybody pitched in to. Mostly, it's more of an IP model, how to actually do that. Again, open issues where that there are connection-oriented networks are there, the connectionless network is there, and what is the commonality and how we address them. Okay, so we had some. So what we did in we had some IDNet issues that we fixed up. We updated the acknowledgement sections. Security consideration got updated. We had 2 editors got identified, and we generalized the IP ping and trace route into continuity check and path discovery RPC. So we made the connectivity check RPC optional by using Yang feature command based on the suggestion from Yang doctors. So and we added support of either proactive and on-demand by adding session type under our base RPCs. Again, there was a question about the topology and topology independent and the extension of it, how to add multicast to the model. So we are basically these all things can be added as an augmentation to the model. So we added all the keys so that augmentation can be done. Notification in previous draft was specific to a certain map. We made it general that it can be reported by a different map. It not only had to be a peer map which will report the notification. Generalized, means especially output of RPC call. They're not specific to certain technology type that we were referring to. And I think we fixed some, issues, warnings and all. We actually split the performance measurement Yang model to another base kind model draft, and that can be augmented by each and every technology. In case of IP, it's OWAMP, TWAMP, and or in case of Trail, their own delay measurement and all those things. We can go next slide. So I think Chin team gonna do a demo in bits and bytes, and they're gonna cover this kind of model. I think based on just previous session, we would actually try to identify this OM Yang model as a service orchestration model, because it has device specific things, but it is covering a network. So that's why you would need a management system which understands the Yang, and it will build a netconf client. We also make sure what is the LIME scope is, because based on our charter, what we are doing. So we said that topology discovery and OM capability discovery, this is not part of that tool or that orchestration system is already knows about it. What LIME is doing is it's giving OM data modeling, how to apply configuration for OM, how to generate RPC or notification, handling those things. And again, with these all things will be covered over netconf, and on the device we would need to have a server and data store. But the OM entity, which is the existing OM implementation, that is not covered by, our effort. There's no changes we are doing into OM protocols, anything to. So again, this is what it's basically saying, that we will get an RPC call and all, and on the devices will interact with OM entity, which will generate the existing OM, whether it's a trace route, LSP ping, or whatever it is. So we can go next slide. So model structure that we did is that, again, means what we did is that we found a model structure from Ethernet and MPLS-TP, make sure it can fit in IP world, and that's the model structure we had done. Is more of identification or test point and all. So on generic level, we are saying these are domains are there. There are maintenance association, that's a service is there, and maintenance endpoints, which are basically you can say as test points are there. Now this can be augmented based on the technology, and you can put more statistics or counters, whatever you want as your own technology. Those can be done. What another thing is one thing that Lime is trying to address is the related OM layer. So most of the time now, we will be able to nest into another OM, some OM, or like if you are going from overlay network, we have an overlay OM, there's an underlay OM, link OM. So models should be able to tie them together. So and that's what the related OM layer is there. On RPC side, we actually talks about reachability verification. Again, that can be talked about as a ping or what, but we are generalizing the name based on RFC 7276 and based on discussion. So I'll cover why there are changes that happen, and path verifications and path discovery, and other two are loss and delay from performance. Again, notification configuration has been more generalized with a map name and generating map ID to identify it, and device type and error. All these things can be augmented by the child models or whatever. We can go next slide. So this is the relationship we are following, and so general OM Yang model is the base model, and on that you have extension, technology specific extensions are there. Trill OM, NBO3, MPLS, IP, or any FU OM, and within that also you can extend it. So again, means hierarchy should be maintained, and it can be extended with vendor specific things also. Next slide. So there were open issue again. When this is open issue from our side only, that we have two representation for leaf interface, and so we choose the representation A, and if there is something right or wrong about this thing, we can change those things, but yeah, we definitely need help from young doctors. So we'll open a questions for them. That so next issue. So again, this is again we want so we have means we are trying to reference leaf instance which doesn't have any key or index, and like admin status and offer status, and even admin status is optional in interface leaf. So I think we definitely need help from young doctors. I think we got a comment that it's an PYang UML plugin tool issue. Again, we are not an expert, so definitely need to get understanding on this thing and get it fixed. Third one is, okay, this thing happened, a lot of discussion happened, whether we are monitoring connection or monitoring network. And so what we are saying is, in connection oriented network, you have a connection. So we can monitor a connection. But in connectionless network, there is no concept of connection. So what we are monitoring? So are we monitoring a link or a section, or means test point between two nodes? So the conclusion that we basically reaching here is that means we are monitoring source and sink kind of this thing. So between two test point, this thing, and we made reachability verification as optional because IP having ECMPU that was also can be moved. ECMP is not there in all the OM. So there are specific OM, MPLS has it, Trill has it. So that is not a function of a common OM. So that gets moved to the, and where IP doesn't have it implicitly in all modes. Okay, next slide. Okay. So again, this question always comes up, can we model based on MEP or MIP, and it makes sense or not? I think this got finalized that, means we can definitely do that. And we are treating this thing as a management entity, and they're implicitly created. And again, means now the question was for ECMP that I talked, means ECMP is not present everywhere. So, and even MPLS TP doesn't has an ECMP, but it has a concept of map and MIP. So again, we are moving this to from the common to the.
Hi, Greg Mirsky. Sorry to interrupt. So I just want to point that ECMP is excluded from MPLS-TP architecture per se because it's against the transport paradigm. So in any transport, there is no ECMP. I don't know how Ethernet OEM supports ECMP. As far as I know, there is no support for ECMP in Ethernet OEM either. So I think that it's only IP OEM. Oh, okay, it's outside. That only IP OEM has some instruments that can help with ECMP, but again, it's all, in my view, black magic, because there is no guarantee that you can monitor particular ECMP path, and that's where there might be more proper would be to look at multi-layer OEM and then inter-layer OEM coordination rather than try to do from one layer to look at ECMP.
So again, that's why and again, what we are saying that Trill has a concept of flow entropy and ECMP. We can definitely do it in overlay, but overlay OM is not even there. So again, till the time that OM, so we could have in future some OM doing it. So it's better. One can be done it through multi-level tool. Again, management system can figure that out. Another thing is that ECMP can, if a protocol supported, you can put the ECMP in the protocol Yang model.
So I guess one way of restating what Greg said, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the proposal is that ECMP should not be part of the most generic model, and you know, as needed, it can be included if it is for IP or MPLS, but not as part of the base.
Yes. So next slide. Okay, I think this is the language issue we had to clarify. That, you know, what does it means? The Yang data model presented in this. Chin has replied back to an email. I think we'll try to reference it and give a diagram means what does it means. Again, means what we wanted to communicate is that we are not modifying the OM protocol or entity. This is more of a within the Yang device model and the management orchestration. They have to make this thing work. So next slide. I think we have to run the Yang tool, find other. This is one of the warnings that got pointed us from Benoit, and I think we have to fix that. So next slide. Okay. We had even the mailing list. There were other comments that we have accepted. We haven't covered in the slide, but we had said okay to it, and we will do an uprev of the draft after we get more comment at this meeting, and then means yeah. So okay.
Greg Nursky Erickson. I just want to point and bring to attention that in MPLS there are two documents I think that related to this work. One is this MPLS TP OEM Yang model, and another is LSP ping Yang model.
Sure. So okay, so I think we'll take a comment and we'll look into it, and we'll definitely need your help if things have to be changed.
Sam Alden. Clarification question. So there was a statement you said reachability is not part of the
Oh, no, again, it's so. For example, when you do a ping, means you don't know which ECMP path, or there was a lot of discussion about are we covering all the paths in ECMP, and to verify that and again, if OM tool doesn't do that, we are not trying to do it from the model itself. It can be done from the child model, not on the base model. Because on the base model, before we used to have a flow entropy where you can put ECMP information and then send it. But that was only being used for Trill. So generic OM model was basically becoming a trill model kind of this thing. So we just have changed that. But management system can still use multi-level tool and get this thing done. So
I mean, like, I just want to understand clearly, because there was a lot of discussion as well on the mailing list. Does ping constitute, or OEM constitutes ping in your definition or not?
yeah, ping is also ping is also
So because in OEM, if you're talking about IP OEM, right, that's a fundamental.
yeah,
thing.
that's a
And
fundamental
reachability is a thing, and BFD is the most used protocol. So how do you ignore as part of the base?
No,
It's
so
something which I was not.
no, so okay, so
And maybe let me try to rephrase, and you correct me if I got it wrong. I think what the message is, coverage is not guaranteed. Reachability is part of the model, right? So you can test reachability, you cannot guarantee CMP coverage
You
on the
don't have to do
reachability
that,
test.
because there is no way you could do, even if you want to probe and see, it could change at any given point of time. So the connectivity is the key thing.
yeah, so
Whatever
connectivity.
you talk in between, that's a different thing. But at least the base model has to have the thing which covers the reachability. That's what I was.
So yeah, so the basic thing which is the basis of trace route. So those things are there. All the base statistics that will get even on Linux or something. Those things we have kept it. Only thing what you're saying that with ECMP you can make it more complicated. So we are not putting like management system itself start changing flow entropy and start doing those kind of things. Before it could have done it, but protocol is not doing. Yeah. No, we'll.
And one addition to that is that, a specific OEM protocol that supports ECMP, like LSP ping, for example, I would expect that on the additional, you can do reachability specifying flow entropy, right? Or in Trill or in MPLS LSP ping. No part of, if you do it on IP, you can test reachability without knowing the ECMP coverage. But reachability is part of the base model, ECMP coverage is not.
John Messenger from Advert Optical Networking. I'm sure this has come up before. I heard a couple of things which made me wonder whether the model represents the lowest common denominator of OEM systems, in which case it's kind of disappointing, but I'm not sure what strategic direction you've taken in terms of choosing the features that you're going to support in the layer-independent model. Can you comment on that?
So if you look from the model, we are definitely covering performance. If you see on the performance, almost all the thing OAMP to AMP or even Ethernet OM, all those statistics are there. Even for we had defined feature specific RPC. It's there.
Okay.
It's just that means if a protocol, we can't change a ping protocol. If just somebody just do a normal ICMP ping, we can't. Because we are not forced, we can't change that thing. So it's more on that. But base models also we will be adding kind of this thing to. So it will get complete with base models also. But we had kept that structure to extend, added a feature so that you can make it an optional. But it's there. It's an option.
And then I wanted to comment on the choice to use implicit map placement. Some of the features of Ethernet OEM very deliberately use explicit map
So
placement.
you can configure explicit map.
And you understand why, right? It's
Yeah.
because it's a way of configuring where service endpoints are.
Yes.
And so at the Ethernet layer, we have very specific ideas about where services start and stop. And so placing maps at those points rather than where some other management system thinks they might be,
Yes.
helps you to establish whether there really is connectivity. And the other one that I wanted to mention was connectivity check frames. Don't only do connectivity verification, they do non-connectivity check verification, so that if you receive CC messages somewhere where you don't expect to receive them, that's an alarm that you've got a misconfigured service. And so it's very important that that capability vulnerabilities exposed in the model.
So we haven't removed things. Again, means we are influenced by those models. We haven't removed things. What and all those things are there. We made it optional. That we are not forcing IP to do what Ethernet OEM has done it. So
Actually, Greg Mirsky again. I would like to continue on the previous comment that in my view, I agree. In my view, it's very important to use proper terminology, because we often call as a connectivity check what is the continuity verification. Continuity verification, especially in IP, it's only that, especially in case of ECMP, we can only say that we have a route between A and B, and we can get there by some means. And we don't know in this particular packet which path we traced. When we're talking about connectivity, that's what I think that was the comment about. The connectivity check assumes that we can have defined what is misconnection defect is. And if we look at MPLS-TP, it's only one place in IP and IP MPLS where there is a definition of what misconnectivity defect is and what is the state of getting in defect state and getting out of defect state is. So that's why MPLS-TP has only really connectivity check, and everything else is a continuity verification, or vice versa, continuity check and connectivity verification. Another thing is what I wanted to point is that in addition to reference to two Yang model being done in MPLS working group, I think that might be interesting to look at a little bit more distant, but I think related, particularly to MPLS-TP work being done. Now we have RFC in out of old CCAM group, and document ready in MPLS ready for the working group WASCO, and a working group document in the FAUS. They're all related to MPLS-TP OEM instantiation using RSVP, LSVP, and extension to LDP respectively.
okay.
So I think that, again, since these are methods to do instantiation configuration of MPLS-TP OEM, and we are using them in Yang model.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that might be good to keep them in perspective, because these are already some documents that are being worked out, and they reflect working groups' view on MPLS TP OEM.
Sure. So one thing is definitely we will add a table from 70 to 76, and with that table we'll add these Yang model or the new LSP ping, and look at if there is definitely a commonality or not a commonality,
Yeah.
and then rule things out. Or
Because I think that in my view, the common model has to be encompassing them, not forcing them to change.
oh no, yeah, definitely. So if there is something, means we have to see whether implicit map can be done there or not, and
No, actually, again, in MPLS-TP, because MPLS-TP is foundation for packet-based transport network, the maps are explicit.
okay.
The only difference is, well, if we compare with the Ethernet OEM, that it doesn't support levels, and the segment or OEM supported through basically hierarchical OSPs.
Okay. So, okay, we definitely, I think we covered that, but we'll go back again and definitely answer on that, and maybe put wording in the draft, say that, what we covered, what we looked at it, and the decision.
Ron Bonico, Juniper Network, speaking as an individual contributor. And this might be a question for Greg Mirsky. I think one of the problems that we might be getting into is the word continuity has some baggage in our minds. When we think of continuity, we think about continuity among segments that are explicitly wired together, kind of like continuity in wiring in your house. Whereas, and that makes sense for a connection-oriented system, maybe we don't have continuity in connectionless systems. Maybe we have reachability.
That is a very good discussion. But historically, we have two terms, and that was explicitly, they were differentiated in RFC from MPLS-TP, which was CCCV RDI. So continuity check, connectivity verification, and remote defect indication. So that is where at least we try to differentiate what continuity check is. So continuity check is that you have a way to get from A to B. And if we look at it as so that just normal BFD is the continuity check. But if you provide your identity of your source and you're verifying the source and you're reporting when you have leaks from other services, that was probably mentioned in a previous comment, right? So, and you are reporting them, then you are monitoring the connectivity, because you are monitoring not that you are receiving what you're supposed to receive, but you are monitoring and flagging what if you are receiving something that you're not supposed to receive. Okay. And that is misconnection error, defect.
I'm going to suggest, Greg, that you can send probably that a brief summary on that to the list so that we. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Actually, regarding the comments on the reference to the MEF work, actually, I think regarding the Brett's comments on the MEF work, I think we did look at that, and we think the MEF work are more Ethernet specific. So what we propose here actually is to try to do a technology independent model. So that's the difference. And we will take a look into this model to say if there's something we can pick.
Would you concur? This is all. I can't get as close as I want. Do you hear me now?
No.
Perhaps. Okay, Rüdiger Geib, Deutsche Telekom. I'm new to this. I rushed through some drafts and followed your presentation. My impression is that OEM, in the sense you work on this data plane verification, whereas my take of OEM for an IP network would be also to watch counters of interfaces and stuff like that. It would be nice if this is out of scope, that the charter would say that, but you focus on data plane verification. Thanks.
So I agree. One of the things from operator is definitely looking at the counters of the interfaces. But at this time we had focused on OEM, but yeah. Yeah.
Adrian Farrell, I just wanted to, when Ron was talking about sort of continuity and connectionless world, it's not just reachability, it's lossless reachability, because that's how you get the equivalent of signal degrade or broken connectivity.
I'll try to speak loud.
Very, very brief, because we were eating into the other.
Greg Harrison, to your comment, I think that yes, I agree it should include active and passive OEM.
So, okay, so I think we would want it to be adopted. We can work on it as a working group document. I would want working group to look into it, see it's ready to be adopted. It, again, model can be extended, and we can call at this time as doing data plane verification. And if it is required to look for us for counters and that, we can actually look into that.
Who has not read this document?
Not.
Who has not read it? Who has not read it? Who did read it? So the majority of the people in the room actually have read the document, and there's been a lot of discussion of it on the list, a lot of iterations and revisions. I don't know, should we ask for?
I think it's probably time to call for adoption.
So let's ask this way. From all of us in the room, who supports adoption of this document as a LIME working group document?
Are you speaking, and are you talking about the 05 version or 06 version? Which one?
I'm talking about the document that we just presented, that Deepak just presented on the young model, not the applicability, not what he's showing right now. The TISA, draft TISA, blah, blah, without the performance management.
The last one posted. 05, I think, is the last posted. Five.
And you speaking, and I made a lot of comments, and so maybe the author said and update 06, and maybe I think we should think of the 06 version for adaptation. 05 is still a number of issues, and I do not find any fixed issues.
That kind of makes sense. Why don't you post the version 6 you talked about, and then we'll have a call for adoption on the mailing list?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. And my name is Ian Zhong, and list on the first. Actually, before the Tom will present this presentation, but unfortunately his health is not so good, so he cannot make it. So I will instead of make this presentation. It's some work about the applicability. We start with some background. This work item is in the charter, and which means the group has to deliver some applicability document to prove that the usability and the extensibility of the LIME-based model can be used for the specific OEM technologies. So since the base model is kind of stable, so last time the chair called for volunteers for this document, but we noticed there is no output, so our colleagues and our co-authors work on this and provide the first version of the applicability. This is from our point of view, so we welcome the comments and the questions on these documents. So let's start with how we organize. How we organize this document. This document is mainly talking about two parts. The first one is we provide some guidelines to extend the base model to generate a model for specific OEM technologies. In this part, we use the identity to define the new OEM technology types, such as trio OEM, which is not defined in the base model. And we also use choice case statements, which means we add new cases for specific OEM technologies to bring the functions and parameters. And in this part, I would like to say how to extend the base model is first you have to choose the right layer, which means you have to choose MD, MA, or MEP, which layer you want to augment. And the second is you have to choose the right angle point, and the last one is defined and insert the data nodes for the specific OEM technology parameters or functions. And the second part is with this kind of guidelines we describe in the first part, we demonstrate the usability and the extensibility of the line-based models with specific examples. We take some examples such as IPOEM, Trail OEM, and NBO3 OEMs. The detailed things of these OEM models and the examples can refer to our drafts if you have time. Thank you. Next slide. And this is some questions we have for this group. So the most important one is the right scope. We know there are many OEM technologies in IETF. So we want to ask the group, should we provide or demonstrate all the OEM technologies should demonstrate the usability and the extensibility of the line-based models for all these specific OEM technology, or we just pick part of these OEM technologies to prove the line-based model can be used and extended. So that's the most important thing we want to ask the group. What kind of examples should we take, and what things we should describe and define in this or introduce in this document. So the following are some open issues which actually has been discussed in the Park's presentation. The first one is the connected and the connectionless. And the second one is some optional features which is not defined in the generic OEM model, but maybe defined in some performance measurement models or as some optional things. So we want to see whether we have to demonstrate these optional features in the applicability document. And there are also some items described in the draft as the open issue and should be discussed. Thank you. Next time. And the next step is we would like to ask the group what we should do for this document. Yeah, I think someone is already standing there. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Greg Mirsky, since I was mentioned. So I think that, yes, it will be very good, and if use cases will be provided that demonstrate applicability of proposed model to other technologies that IETF originated. And that would include IP MPLS, and MPLS-TP. And in particular, since I already mentioned the work on MPLS-TP, I think that will be probably easier to do. There is no work, as far as I know, on IPOEM Yang model. And for IP MPLS, offers of MPLS-TP OEM Yang model intended to start this work by extending MPLS-TP document. So we can work on it together.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, there is one thing we would like to say. These examples are not some standard specific OEM for the other technologies. It's just examples to teach people how to use these base models. So specific OEM models will be done in their respective groups. We just provide some guidance and how people can use it. So welcome people to help us to finish this document and make it a complete one. So do you have any questions?
I do have one.
Yeah.
Hello. I do have one quick question. What this document is trying to do is prove is too strong maybe, but demonstrate that the base model can be used in a number of different technologies. Have you connected with the authors of different drafts in different working groups like the BFD, LSP, PING, MPLS, to get their views on whether this applicability applies to the work that they're doing? Because it's ultimately, that would be the ultimate goal.
Okay, so you suggest we should contact the standard specific OEM models authors to get their feedback on these examples, right? Yeah, we will do that. We will try to do that.
Actually, we plan to connect all the. Okay. Yeah. Feedback on your question. Actually, we plan to contact also the relevant OEM young data model chapter after we can get a line-based model adopted. It will convince people we can work together. Otherwise, I think we may how do you convince these people to yeah.
So I probably can represent at least 3 design teams: BFD, MPLS TPOM, and LSP Ping. And I think that the sooner we start discussion, the better, because these documents are maturing, and probably our expectation would be that their common data model will encompassing and not enforcing anything on the models that we're designing.
Thank you. I will work with you on this document for further discussion. So, any comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think we have. Do we have another presentation on performance management? Yeah. What will you say next? We are low on time, so if you want to make a point about the architecture, I'd rather make it now.
I think.
Okay.
I think the same same slides, same line model, line-based model, John.
Oh, on line-based model?
Yeah.
No. Actually, this one, I think.
You can check. Oh, not this one.
Oh, not this one.
Line-based model, not this one. Yeah, you scroll down. Yeah. Okay, from here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the performance management model. This actually is a companion chapter related to the line-based model chapter. Actually, based the discussion with the department, we at the beginning we document this chart. We think performance management may be a small portion of this line-based model, but after we reading the IETF93-LIME-20150721-1740, we found not all the OEM technologies support the performance management, so we prefer to actually split the performance management from the line-based model and document it in a separate chapter. So what is the performance management about? Actually, we can have a management system to perform the performance management to by issue the command to the network element and trigger the network element to execute the command and get the performance management results back to the management systems. So here we covered 2 common pieces. One is loss management, another is delay management. Because when we found when we the OM technology support the performance measurement, these two measurement need to be mandatory to support. So we're using the model structure proposed in the line-based model. So we just find the the anchor point to insert the data node that relate to the performance measurement. And also in addition, we define the RPC for the loss measurement, delay measurement. So here is the overview. Next. So what is the anchor point we choose? Actually, we extend the line-based model. We extend the map configuration with loss measurement and delay measurement. For the loss measurement, we define the role of the testing point and the measurement method. So for the role of the test point, for example, we using the measurement type to distinguishing one-way measurement from the two-way measurement. We also using the session type to distinguish the on-demand measurement from the proactive measurement. And in addition, we actually define the measurement method. We cover the measurement interval, started time, and end time, and also other parameter. Yeah. For the delay, is similar parameter can be applied to the delay measurement. Next. For the RPC extension, we actually introduce the 4 RPC, 2 for the loss measurement, 2 for the delay measurement. For loss measurement, we introduce create loss measurement and abort measurement. And the same for the delay measurement. So next. This is some open issue we discussed when we document this draft, and we discussed with some colleagues like Tom, and actually this kind of issue more related to the inconsistent issue. When we when we write the young model, the code, we seems we just assume that the abort loss man and abort delay man only support the on-demand, but this is not true. So we need to fix these inconsistent issues. Since this loss man or delay man should support both on-demand and the proactive. So we need to fix this. Next. The second issue is about whether the performance measurement model is part of the line-based model. Actually, this is a little bit tricky. And I think we have some argument here. We think if the OM young model support the performance measurement can be using to do the end-to-end path characteristics to connect these characteristics. The loss measurement and delay measurement must be supported. Also, for the performance measurement, actually, this is kind of generic model. So we think it's better to have a single Java to put the model in a single in the same place in a single document. So this is just our opinion. We want the Solid's working group opinion on this.
Greg Mirsky, Ericsson. I will suggest to look at the work being done in the LMAP working group because its reference model includes controller, measurement agent, and a data collector, and it already has informational model and a data model, and the working group is working on the protocols to instantiate measurement task as a combination of reference to measurement method and parameters. And it includes the schedule, which defines their periodicity and period that measurement task has to be performed. So I think that there are a lot of commonality, and we should try not to duplicate the work that's being done already in LMAP group.
So thank you for pointing to this LMAP work. We haven't read that draft. We will take a look at that after this meeting.
Ron Bonica speaking as individual contributor. I'd argue with the must in your pro. could is a possibility, but it would also be a possibility to leave place for an extension and put it in later. That way we could complete our charter and move on and maybe recharter when we want to do this later. Another possibility is we may need to go to other folks for expertise on what the performance management metric should be. You know, maybe it's something, maybe it's a box that we want IPPM to color in for us or some other group.
Benoit Clay, so I want to combine the two comments from Greg and from Ron because I've got the same feedback. What you're trying to do with the RPC there is redo what IPPM has been doing. And they've been doing that for as long as I can remember, right? So, and the second point is that maybe the things that we do for performance management are just technology specific, but there is not much for something generic. So having just something, a placeholder, if we even need that, I believe is good enough. So I'm not too sure about this work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now we have to bring up the architecture document. Well, actually, what to do next?
Go for it. We're right on time.
Okay. We should probably talk a bit about next steps. The first next step for the Yang model, Deepak, you'll post version 6 fairly soon. We'll all take a look at it and review on the list, maybe have a working group, well, actually definitely have a working group call for adoption. Second issue is the applicability statement. That seems to need much more work. So would it help to bring the authors together between now and the next IETF for, you know, some kind of brainstorming? Good idea? Okay, we'll set something up for the authors to meet, figure out what it is that they meant to send and do some massive work on that document. The next is the architecture document, which we haven't even begun to think about yet. And we don't have a volunteer to work on it yet. It would be a good idea to start a thread on what should be in it. I'll kick off that thread on the mailing list. We're going to be looking for some volunteers to author that. What do you know? We have hands going up, and I'll work with whatever volunteers are there. Given that, I think we've wrapped up our agenda. Oh, one night hand.
Benoit Clay speaking. So as mentioned, I think by Carlos, the end goal is that we'd have this base Yang model and the specific extensions and different technologies, right? And there are some of them, as Greg mentioned. So we should make sure that this work together, right? And as a consequence of all this, you will get your architecture document like created and the applicability and everything.
Mm-hmm. And given that, if nobody has anything else, I think we've wrapped up our agenda. It's Miller time. Hang on, we're in the Czech Republic. It's time for good beer.
Thank you very much. Oh, and the other blue sheet.
We'll chat about what we saw today as we go downstairs.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think we're in pretty good shape on the architecture document and what people.
I know it is. Oh, I saw it. Thank you so much, Adrian. No, you were, yeah.